What Mourinho just said to Conte is the coldest way to end a 7-year feud I've ever seen. 7 years in the making this moment was. Because Benfica have just beaten Napoli in the Champions League 2-0. Of course, a game in which Mourinho is the Benfica manager and Conte is the Napoli manager. And there's a whole backstory there. It all started when Mourinho was the manager of Manchester United and Conte was the manager of Chelsea. Mourinho didn't like the way Conte celebrated in his face after Chelsea beat his United team 4-0. He said, you don't celebrate like that at 4-0, you can do it at 1-0, otherwise it's humiliating for us. Conte then had a jibe back at him, so Mourinho went in his next press conference and said, me personally, I don't cry. Other managers, they cry, they cry, they cry. Conte was asked about this in his next press conference and he said, do you think that it was for me? Then Conte said, I think Mourinho needs to think about himself. He needs to look at his own team. If you know Mourinho, you know he's not the type of guy to let that slide. So in his next press conference, he said this about Conte. I don't need to behave like a clown on the touchline. And Conte hit back in his next press conference saying, he's a little man in the past, a little man in the present, and a little man in the future. Mourinho was asked about this in his next press conference and all he had to say was, end of the story. Those 4 words. Conte left England, Mourinho left England, and the pair would never meet again. Until tonight, 7 years later, where Benfica tore Napoli to shreds. But after each goal, no reaction from Mourinho. Conte, on the other hand, knew that he'd fucked up. And at the end of the game, in his post-match interview, have a guess how Mourinho shined it off. He said, end of the story. Not forgetting about the feud 7 years ago. Ending the rivalry in this particular chapter of Mourinho's career in the most Jose Mourinho way possible. And yes, Mourinho is the exact type of person I would expect to have the last laugh 7 years later.